This is part one of a new mini-series where we take our trusty mascot and time warp him through a variety of iconic vintage art styles. Today we're going back to the earliest days of animation. That's right, we're doing a deep dive into the wobbly, joyful world of 1920s rubber hose. In this video, I'll break down Retro Boy's original design and then walk you through key traits of classic rubber hose characters. Finally, I'll show you how to steal that retro magic for your own work, step by step. And hey, this is just the beginning. We've got more redesigns coming in with other beloved vintage art styles, so stick around. Alright guys, let's get into it. Before we go full retro remix, let's take a second to appreciate the original. This is the current RetroSupply mascot, and he's already rocking some pretty strong retro vibes. He's got the toolbox in one hand, the megaphone in the other. It's like if Bob the Builder went to art school. But what makes this design tick? Let's break down the basic shapes that make up this character. Circles, ovals, rectangles. Like most cartoon characters, Retro Boy is built from basic shapes. But what makes him unique? The iconic R overalls. That's just good branding. His props, like his toolbox, his megaphone, and the pencil tucked behind his ear. His rolled cuffs with halftones. Even though halftones aren't necessarily accurate to a couple of today's styles, I'm still going to incorporate them because who doesn't love a little texture? I'll be using the Duplatone brush pack to create this effect. And my favorite, the Chaos Trail. All the papers, pencils, and erasers that are flying around him. These are all the essential elements of his design. So no matter what decade we drop him into, I'm keeping all of these vibes. The outfit, the gear, the movement, the expression. It's just gonna get filtered through time. So jump in the DeLorean, kids. First stop, the 1920s. The 20s was the Wild West of animation. No rules, no physics, and definitely no bones. Characters just had to bounce and boogie and look alive. But before we redraw RetroSupply's mascot in a classic rubber hose style, let's break down what actually defines it. Construction. Built from round, simple shapes like circles, ovals, and beams. No sharp angles or real anatomy. Limbs are bendy, and poses are bouncy and rhythmic. Design. Dot or pie cut eyes and big rubbery mouths. There's minimal facial features. They have bold, silly costumes like suspenders, bow ties, big shoes, and of course the iconic white gloves. Basically, their personality was cranked up with minimal detail. Line art. Thick, uniform, consistent line work. No inking tricks, just bold outlines. It was designed for readability and quick animation. Coloring. Originally, these cartoons were black and white, and they're heavy on contrast. Think deep blacks and bright whites. But modern takes like Cuphead add color, so feel free to play. Now that we've broken down the style, we're going to take all of those elements and give Retro Boy a proper rubber hose makeover. Let's roll the time lapse. Alright guys, here's my take on Retro Boy. He's all jazzed up in true rubber hose fashion. Let me break this down layer by layer and walk you through how I brought this bad boy to life. So here's the original design, and I took that and I built upon that to create this construction sketch. It's super rough, it's just the construction layer. It's basically like the skeleton or the bones of the drawing. It's made up of really simple shapes, circles, curves, ovals, and like these bean forms. The goal here was to really lock in that classic bounce and rhythm that you see in this style. There's a lot of movement and momentum in the pose, which was like really key to nailing this style. Characters back then, they were always moving and grooving and dancing, so I made sure to include like a strong line of action, you know. There's also this one from his arms, creates that nice S-curve. You can see it run from his arms and his legs, and it gives the whole pose a sense of flow and energy, because that movement is like really iconic to the rubber hose era. So once my construction was locked in, I went in and did a rough sketch. This is where I started building out the details, you know, planning the face, figuring out how his suspenders worked, and looking at references for things like his boots and his gloves to make sure I was really nailing that style. And my big tip here is to not just focus on the character. Retro Boy's props are really essential to his characters. Props matter. They help tell the story and reinforce the style and time period. For example, in the original Retro Boy design, his megaphone was super angular and it was built of these hard edges. So I went in and in my redesign, I curved it up, because back then everything was rounded, man. Everything was moving and dancing. So I wanted his props to feel like they were about to start jiving too, you know? So then I took that rough sketch and I tightened it to a cleaner sketch. This is where I began to start planning out the final line art. It's where I finalized the face and gave him those classic pie cut eyes and a big dumb smile. This is just a guess, but I'm guessing that those pie cut eyes were to indicate like a highlight or a direction without actually having pupils or realistic eyes. But hey, that's just a guess. I don't know what I'm talking about. So since the style is mostly black and white, I also added these little cutouts under the arm and between the hair and the hat. It helps separate the forms so everything reads clearly. Because when I do my inks, the arm and the chest and the hair and the hat, they're gonna be the same black color. So without those subtle little cutout lines, they'd blend together into one weird like hat head shape, which would not be good. Readability is key for this style. So next up is inks, and this is where it all started to really come together, guys. And this is an important note. I didn't just trace my clean sketch. You shouldn't either. If you trace it exactly, you'll lose all the momentum and energy from your earlier layers. So use your sketch as a guide, not like a solid blueprint that you follow to a T. Now for my line art, I used this college strip pen from the Inferno ink pack. It's got that nice kind of monoline look that's pretty true to the rubber hose style, but it also feels a little gritty and not too overly digital. That's the key you want to be aiming for here. Now in this style, most lines are pretty uniform. You could see that like the cheek and the hand are the same line weight, but you know, there is some tapering in certain areas, like you'd see it at the end of some lines or in his ear. So when I wanted that tapering, I just took the college strip pen and I manually thinned it out a bit. And when you do this, you don't want your tapers to be too thin at the end. You don't want something like super sharp like that, because it just reads a little too digital. Inks bleed, they spread out, so keep it a little thicker at the ends. So yeah, the goal for your line art should be to keep things loose and playful and just keep a ton of character. So after my line art, I went in and added some halftones, like I said before. The halftones aren't super accurate to the original 1920s style. They're more of a product of print, but they felt like an important part of Retro Boy's original design, so I kept them in. Guys, this is your world, you know, you don't have to pretend like your work actually is real and it came from like some dusty bin in a 1928 archive. Evolve it, make it yours. That's what makes stuff like Cuphead, the game I mentioned before, so cool. They took the original style and pushed it into the modern day. Now for the values, it's pretty simple. It's just flat color fills with a medium gray. I just did it to add some contrast and to get that retro vibe. It was super quick, but super effective. And then finally, I just added some print defects on my inks here. Nothing crazy, I just used some of the brushes from the Edge and Fold pack. You get a ton of cool print defect brushes there. And yeah, I just subtly touched up my work with some print defects to make it look like it came from an actual like degraded old film canister that you're running through the projector. Just adds a little authenticity and again to keep it from feeling too digital. that's my rubber hose retro boy here. I'm honestly really happy with how this version turned out. I'm super excited to see where we can take this character in the future with different styles. Yeah, what a cute guy. He looks like he walked straight out of a Mickey Mouse cartoon or something.
And there you have it, folks. Retro Boy, fully reimagined in all his wobbly 1920s glory. Oh God. I'm already sick of that voice. Let's fire the time machine back up again, folks.
Oh, that's better. One mascot and one era down, and a whole lot of style packed into one single redesign. If you like this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment telling us which style we should run through next. We've already got the next 2 styles in the bag, and they're coming soon, but we wanted to hear what styles you think we should tackle after that. And if you want to try these styles yourself, check out the brush packs I used. They're linked below, and yeah, they're awesome. Alright guys, go fire up your own time machines and make some dope retro art. Happy creating.